Hello and welcome to Dub Nation, the official show of the Utah Warriors of Major League Rugby. I am Jarom Jordan. He is Banksy. Here's what's on the show today. The United States gets the win in Sandy, Utah over Stade Toulousain, the French champs. Man, that was fun. Lots of Utah Warriors represented in this one. The world's largest scrum happened after the game. We'll talk about that. Pretty cool. Bailey Wilson, the captain of the Utah Warriors, joins the program, talks about his experience starting for the United States on home soil. I'm not just talking about the U.S. I'm talking about Utah. The Crossroads Cup begins this week. We'll tell you some of the names that have emerged from this tournament that have actually played for the Warriors and had an impact. It's pretty cool. All the way up to the United States. The amazing story of Takaji Young-Yen. Plus, World Cupdate. Oh, yeah, that's going on in France right now. MLR news from Miami, Toronto, D.C. Big trade between Houston and Seattle as well. And the Premiership from England is going to be on the Rugby Network. We'll tell you the details. We begin with the 5 Utah Warriors, Banksy, who are in the 26 for the United States against Stade Toulousain. We've been looking forward to this game for a long time. As seen on Fox Sports, you were the PA announcer inside the stadium. It was awesome, man. What were your thoughts on how that turned out? And the United States gets the win, baby.
I was excited before kickoff, even the whistle even blew. Having 5 guys from the Warriors on the roster, could have had 6 with Logan Tongo in the greater training camp, but to have Bale starting, to have Paulie starting, and then Tommy, Kaji, and Joe all coming off the bench was fantastic. I mean, we had 10,000 people show up for a rugby event in Utah while a World Cup was going on simultaneously. And the Eagles put on a good show. So big shouts out to Scott Lawrence and what he's been able to do with this training squad and developing some of these young players, getting them incredible experience against Stade Toulousain, and really kind of maybe swan-songing and saying a farewell possibly to some of the senior players here in a great send-off.
It was so fun to have the U.S. In our backyard here. That was cool, let alone the 5 Utah Warriors. Like, if there were 0 Warriors, it still would have been awesome. But the fact that we had 5, and Logan Tonga was at least warming up, and Sione Mahe is hanging out with these guys all week as well. And obviously all the connections between these two. And then to have Stade Toulousain here, like for those who don't know, and you're maybe newer to rugby, let's just say it'd be like the Lakers showing up in like Toulouse, France and playing a game. And it
would be like the New York Yankees coming to play the Salt Lake Bees.
Yes. Like, it's like, what is this game? Like, how did this even happen? It was super cool. We acknowledge that a lot of players, 16 in fact, from Stade Toulousain, are on the World Cup rosters for France and otherwise. But it's the brand. It's the quality of some of those kind of. There were a couple starters that traveled. They mostly played B and C team kind of guys. But you're going to hear those names in top 14 in France the next couple of years. This was a tremendous showing. The United States did well, Banksy, to control possession, controlled territory. We're down 7-0 in the first half there, but in the second half, the United States certainly earned this win. This was not a lucky, tricky situation. The U.S. used its strengths to its advantage and played some great defense.
You know, there's always ups and downs, but when you play a squad with the quality that Stade Toulousain has, realizing that they're already into their French premier season, that this is a team that has been together for weeks and weeks and weeks, training together, on and off the field, working on their set pieces and plays. This was a chance for them to shine as much as it was for the Eagles to shine and make an impact on their coaches. So there was a lot to play for, even though it was a lot of like second 15 guys. So don't let the haters take away anything from this Stade Toulousain squad. This is a squad that is legitimate and would compete in any domestic competition anywhere in the world. So to have them come out, and the first big question mark was the first scrum, 90 seconds into the match. Would Toulouse, with a very big physical pack, be able to force the Eagles to go backwards? And Paul Mullen stuck his shoulders in there and stuck his boots in the ground. And I knew at that point that this was going to be a great contest. And it was so electric, back and forth throughout, possession in each other's halves. And then the flash and the flare in the second half. It became a really entertaining rugby match, regardless of who was involved. We got to see all our guys on the bench play. There were so many positives to take out of this game that it was just an absolute blessing to be a part of.
It was so fun. And for the United States, a team that, hasn't smelled a victory in a minute, and didn't qualify for the World Cup, and went to Europe last month and went 1-2. This was sweet. This was really sweet, and it was fun to do it on home soil. Only game in the United States this year, And to do it in Utah and to do it on a national TV stage and in front of 10,000 fans, that had to feel good. And I went into the locker room after the game, and I'll talk about this with Bailey coming up. But they sang America the Beautiful. And it was like as loud and as proud as they could sing it. And it was a really cool moment. It was an emotional moment. But I make this comment to Bailey. They started too high, so that when they got to the chorus, it was just yelling. But it was awesome. Okay, so a couple of notes here. The U.S. wins 24-21. I should say the score of the game. Takaji Young Yen scores a try in this game. Banksy, a year ago, this guy was like, hey, do you want to play in the Crossroads Cup? And then he played, and they were like, hey, do you want to play in the Selects? Hey, do you want to play with the Warriors? He played in 2 games. He's now played in 2 games with the Eagles, Banksy, and he scored in a game. The ascension of Takaji Young Yen from Crossroads Cup guy to United States Eagles scoring on national TV in front of a home crowd. Unbelievable.
It's such a great story, and it's what the Crossroads Cup and what the Warriors are all about with the pathway program that has been established. This is the perfect example of how you grow the game in America. You invest in your main line, invest in your local clubs, invest in your local players, give them a showcase like the Crossroads Cup, get them involved with your local teams like Park City Haggis, get them minutes, let them find their love for the game again, which is what Takaji Young Yen had done. This is a guy that played provincially in New Zealand. This is a guy that played through the age grades in his home country and really kind of became disenfranchised with the politics of rugby. Shows up here, plays through school, finishes off his schooling career, and then gets re-energized by playing here locally, domestically, and you can see the physicality and the talent that he absolutely has and really just enjoying his rugby again. He's a magnetic guy to be around. He's the kind of guy you want involved in your franchise. Was so stoked to be able to call that try for Takaji in front of the home fans.
So Bailey Wilson starts at flanker. Paul Mullen starts at tight head prop there. And then you had Takaji come off the bench, Thomas Tuavau, and Joe Mano. Joe Mano of note, after the United States makes the goal line stand to get a holding on call against Stade Toulousain, the ball isn't kicked out into touch. It should have been. It wasn't. It stays in. And then Joe Mano, for all the offense we talk about with Joe, makes a great tackle. Ball spills out, goes into touch. USA wins. Joe Mano's defense won the game.
Well, and it was a great switch because Mano came out to the left side and Augsburger switched to the right side. And that's when Augsburger got the intercept try. And so Joe probably was like, all right, well, it's on me to make a difference on this side now. And you see the physicality and the speed that he absolutely has in doing something like that, chasing a kick for touch. A lot of guys would have just jogged up in those minutes and got, oh, this is going to go to touch and it'll be fine. If it was Cardi on the boot, they may not have even gone there because Cardi was so good all night long for the Eagles. But Mano giving the hustle play, chasing it all the way down the sideline. And when that ball comes in, he's immediately under pressure, probably saved the game for the Eagles. So tip of the cap to Joe Mano in the hustle play for sure.
What a cool moment for the United States to win and for the Warriors to be involved. And the alliance between Stade Toulousain and the Utah Warriors makes this game happen. TBD on what the future looks like of this relationship. But what a game. And after the game, a Guinness World Record occurred where the largest scrum happened. And it was cool to have the Make-A-Wish Foundation there and our friend Hadley involved in that. Her wish was to go to Disneyland. And so she's going to get that, which is super cool. Emotional moment. And she was a part of a world record of what was it, 2,983 in the world's largest scrum?
I believe the previous record was 2,500 and the official count was over 2,900 here in Utah. So for everybody that was a part of it in the red, black, and white shirts, for Hadley, who kicked the ball through the scrum and initiated the whole thing on what was a big night for her, making those dreams come true. Every layer of this was such a big win for the American rugby community to be able to involve hopes and dreams of little children, to be able to make dreams reality for some of these rugby players playing for their country in their own country, which is insane to me to think that this is the only game that the Eagles have had played on home soil this year. We need to do better about fixing that and create some kind of domestic competition internationally so these guys can get more time together. But you see what Scott Lawrence is putting together and what he's able to do with these players in his system and what he's able to get out of them. I think we are on a rise right now with American rugby as we push towards 2031 in the World Cup, and both the men and women's World Cup, it should be noted, right? That both of these games and both of these events and both of these moments are not going to be wasted, that we are really genuinely building for a bigger, better, and brighter future for our sport.
2031 men's World Cup here, 2033, as you mentioned, the women's World Cup. It's exciting, man. And we'll break that down a little bit more coming up with Bailey Wilson.
Look, if that just wet your whistle for your appetite for rugby, it's time to get your season tickets for MLR 2024. Let's go, Dub Nation. Call right now, book your seats, pick out your seats, and get the best spot in all of Zions Bank Stadium to see the best team in Major League Rugby. Call 801-477-7652. That's 801-477-7652 and get your season tickets now.
Well, Bailey Wilson was one of the Utah Warriors represented. He started in the United States, and for the Eagles, wasn't a capped game because it's not international versus international, but his first appearance with the Eagles. I spoke with Bailey yesterday about the experience.
Bailey, Saturday was unbelievable. Have you come down from the high of what was obviously your first appearance for the Eagles on home soil in a win on national TV?
Yeah, look, honestly, it was unreal. I'm still buzzing. It was a great weekend. It was honestly the perfect storm, the perfect scenario, and it's just been unreal since then.
What was your favorite part of the whole situation?
Oh, there was so much good stuff that happened. It's honestly hard to just pick one. I think probably just the family aspect, playing with my brother in front of our family. My girlfriend's there, all the support system, my friends, everything, it was just perfect. It lined up well.
Okay, so you went with the United States on the tour to Europe. I was hoping you'd get in. You did not get in. So that first cap isn't quite there. This wasn't a capped situation. But to have it be in Utah, was there something extra special about that?
Yeah, definitely. I was pretty disappointed. Obviously, having gone on tour to Europe for a couple of weeks, didn't get a shot on the field. But yeah, to be able to get given an opportunity to play, for the Eagles, but let alone here in the state of Utah, it was unbelievable. It was something super special, and I think it was worth the wait.
So growing up in Australia, you could not have fathomed what happened Saturday, right? One, that you would move to Utah at some point, become a Utahn, become Utah built. And then two is suit up for the United States. Like, what was that moment like as you sort of flash back maybe to the rugby playing kid that suddenly you're playing with your brother in a USA jersey in a state that you love and grew up in?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, to be honest. I mean, obviously, you said it, I had no idea I'd even be living in the States, let alone playing for the national team. And, the second I moved to the US, it actually became my goal, and my dream was to play for the national team here. So to be able to come full circle just this last weekend, it's super special to me and something that I'll cherish dearly.
Did it hit you any time, like during the anthem or during the game or after the game?
Actually, it kind of hit me the night before the game. I was just kind of sitting there thinking about, the role and just going through my responsibilities and the detail over and over again, just making sure I had everything down. And that's probably when it hit me the most. And then, yeah, a couple other times, in the huddle before we're about to run out. But yeah, it was a very special moment.
It was cool. I try and walk around the pitch, if I'm not in Austin or Indianapolis calling remotely, in this case, in the stadium, I try and walk around and just kind of take it in. And it was just like, hey, there's Logan Tongue. Hey, there's Joe Mono. Hey, there's Paul Mullen. Hey, there's Bales. Hey, there's Thomas Tuiva. It was this very Utah Warriors friendly situation, obviously. And it was cool of Scott Lawrence to put 5 in the 26. So what was it like to suit up with literally your brother, but also your brothers with the Warriors?
Yeah, it was unreal. I quite literally had plenty of family out there with me. There's something special about when, you've got that little bit of extra connection with your teammates, and it just makes you want to go that much harder and fight that much harder for them, and and work your butt off for them,
Hey, good edit there. That was nice. The one guy left off was the try scorer, because I wanted to bring him up now. Takaji Young Yen. A year ago, this guy was being asked to play in the Crossroads Cup. And then he plays twice for the Warriors. He's now played twice for the United States. Like, what is that ascension for him? Like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's awesome for him. I mean, and he scored as well on the weekend, which is also huge. scoring here in his home state. But yeah, I mean, it's a man that's worked hard and he's made the most of his opportunities and he's done really well. And he's in the side and he's doing extremely well to prove for it.
Okay, let's talk about the game itself. When did you kind of feel settled into the game? Because the United States did an excellent job of controlling territory and possession in that first half. But unfortunately, we're down at the half because one crossfield kick got Toulouse a score. But the U.S. played really well in the first 40.
Yeah, look, I'd always kind of had that belief. I knew that we could do the job. But definitely, at halftime, knowing that the game was still super close, still everything was still on the line, it just, it kind of gives you that extra hunger and motivation. You come out the second half with a little bit more pride and urgency and that pep in your step.
So the second half, you guys come out and you score a couple of tries and each team responds. Once the game got going and opened up, what was it like on the pitch to kind of see that happen and then see Toulouse respond and then you've got to respond back?
Yeah, it was it just goes to show how good of a side Toulouse is. We controlled the territory and the possession for most of the game. And, the second they got the ball back, it was boom, quick scores, boom, quick scores. So, I really knew that we had to be clinical. We couldn't just turn the ball over easily. We had to be disciplined, especially in that last half. The game was back and forth. Any one extra penalty or something, a little mistake could change the whole outcome of the game. So, yeah, just the discipline, I think, in that second half was crucial.
And then Toulouse is knocking on the door. They're 1 meter away. And then the U.S. gets a holding on call and the ball's turned over. What was that like emotionally? And then to watch that the ensuing kick stayed in, and then suddenly Joe Mano makes the tackle and the ball spills out of bounds.
Yeah, it was very stressful. I came off for the end of the game, and I feel like, honestly, when you're off the field, it's a little bit more stressful, a little bit more anxious just watching and actually being out there. So it was pretty stressful, but I knew the boys had proven throughout the game that their defense was solid and that would be able to hold them out. So it was very stressful, but I still believe that we could have done it. We did, so very happy.
It was such a great moment. It was amazing. How many UVU guys have played for the USA, by the way? Have there been very many, or are you the first?
I think there's probably been a couple. Not nearly as many as probably, BYU and University of Utah. Probably a couple. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I'd love to know, because I'm assuming you joined Select Company, which is pretty cool, representing the Wolverines. Now, Joe Hodgson is running the show down there. What have you told him about what he needs to make sure he needs to do with that program?
Yeah, he's doing great things down there at the program at UVU. UVU's in great hands with him. I'm sure Jolie's getting on them just as he gets on us at the Warriors. So, no doubt about them that they're going to be some great players coming through their systems in the next few years.
Okay, once you get the win, I wandered over to the locker room because I want to say hey to everybody, yourself included. And one cool thing that happened was you guys sang America the Beautiful in the locker room. I thought that was really cool. My only feedback is you started too high. So by the time you got to the end, you guys are just yelling.
Yeah.
But it was like a really emotional moment. It was a cool thing. Like, you guys represented the Stars and Stripes, the red, white, and blue in an amazing way, and you celebrated it together by singing a patriotic song like that. What was that like?
Yeah, it was really special. Just to be in that circle and just all the emotions of winning and just knowing what had just happened, just singing that song. I think, you said it perfectly right there. It wasn't much, it wasn't very in tune or in sync, but regardless, there was a lot of emotions and it was still great.
A lot of heart in that. Yeah. It was beautiful. Okay, then after the match, the largest scrum in the history of this planet happened. Hadley, the Make-A-Wish Foundation girl, gets her wish. She's part of that. She gets to go to Disneyland, which is super cool. What was that like to have the largest scrum? After that, it was kind of a cool thing right after a cool game.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. It's just it's a really special moment. I'm really grateful that Hadley was able to have a wish come true and granted. So that's, first of all, super special. And then I think it's also something really cool for all the fans and the spectators that were able to join into that scrum and know they were able to be a piece of history on that night. And, it's just such a special night. I think it's a great way to top it off.
So where do you go from here? Where do the Warriors go from here? Where does the U.S. go from here after a night like that?
That's a tough question. I'd probably go on for hours about that one, but I think it just goes to show the growth of rugby and how far it's come, and that there is systems in place that from the Warriors and even Toulouse and the partnerships there that are just showing that rugby is growing here, and there's a pathway for kids in 2031 for that home World Cup, that there's opportunity here for them, and we just ultimately want to see them with a rugby ball in their hand, and it's hard. You're competing against American football, basketball, baseball, so many different sports, and it's just it'd be good to see a few more kids with rugby balls in hand. I think the Warriors and USA Rugby are doing a great job.
And there's a lot of work to do until 31, notably qualifying for the 27 World Cup and so on and so forth. But you're a young dude. Are you 23 right now?
23, yeah.
You're 23. Oh, life is ahead of you, baby. You're still motivated and excited. When you look ahead, in your mind, 8 years from now, 31, you could absolutely be in the World Cup on home soil. Is that? I assume that's a goal of yours, and what will it take to get to that point and do that?
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge goal of mine. Hopefully, I'll still be fit and healthy to be playing by the ripe age of 31. But no, in all seriousness, I think there is a long way to go. But it's just really, really great to see the steps being made in the right direction. So as long as we continue to keep taking steps forward and not taking steps backwards, like I said, there's a long way to go, trust me, but it is really, really exciting to see it heading in the right direction. And I'd love to be a part of that 2031 World Cup here in the US. And hopefully, in 8 years' time, rugby's in a much bigger and greater place than it is now, thanks to all the work from the people that have been, before them and right now.
What does the offseason look like for you the next couple of months before the season?
Yeah, just training the next few weeks, trying to stay in shape or, get in better shape. And then there will be a USA tour to Spain. The dates and the team selection is still to come. So just going to be training and hopefully put my hand up for that and can get another crack in the jersey.
It was fun to see the group that was selected from Scott Lawrence. And, what Scott mentioned to me last week, hey, my contract's up in 2 weeks. So we'll see what USA Rugby does, if they bring him back or not. But that roster featured certainly some experience. It was like we called it a Major League Rugby all-star team, essentially. Mm-hmm. What did you make of that group, and what can that group accomplish, hopefully in Spain in a couple months and in the qualifying period the next couple of years to make 2027 World Cup?
Yeah, I think it's relatively a pretty fresh group, so to speak. I think there's a lot of potential with this group, and with Scott as our head coach, I think the boys really love playing under him. They all respect him and want to fight for him, and he's a great leader for us. So I think there's something really special that's building, and we just want to keep improving and making our country proud.
And the hope is, it's especially by 27 is, okay, MLR has been around 9 years now, like firmly entrenched. The domestic quality has been raised. Obviously, the goal is that more and more players playing MLR or playing overseas and whatnot and so forth. And then you get to that point where it's like, okay, we're not just worried about qualifying. We're worried about competing in the group. So, yeah, that's certainly the hope. Well, best of luck with the offseason. And, hopefully you're on the tour to Spain. That'd be fun. You could check off another European country, right?
Yep. Still haven't been there, so I need to check that one off.
What European countries have you checked off? Because you did what? Georgia, Portugal, Romania.
Yep, Georgia, Portugal, Romania. This last tour, and then I've been to a couple other, just in high school with rugby, the UK, France, a few others, but haven't been to Spain yet. So really want to make that trip, and I've heard great things about it.
In high school, was that a USA team or was that United?
Actually went to France with the high school All-Americans. So I think it was the U18s or the U17s.
Did you go to Toulouse or was it somewhere else?
No, we didn't go to Toulouse, unfortunately. So I still need to go check out that area.
I'm interested to see where this alliance goes, by the way. We've got the game. Obviously, we've had some visits. But what that looks like in the future could be very exciting. I'm not exactly sure whether there's players or coaches on loan or training or development squads, but there could be Toulouse in the mix.
who knows? There could be. Yeah, could be very exciting to see what happens in the future.
Okay, well, let me know how many UVU guys have played for the Eagles. I need to understand UVU rugby history a little better.
Sounds good.
I'll know
look
some
into the
BYU,
archives.
some Utah, but yeah, let me know. And Bailey, we appreciate the time. Congrats, man. It was super cool to see you out there.
Cheers, Jarom. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Pretty cool for El Capitan to grow up in Australia, and then he moves here as a kid, and then he makes his home or his debut in front of the home crowd. Pretty cool. And his brother's in the starting lineup too. Like that was just like the best of everything, as he said.
Some great moments for Cap, and well-deserved, and unofficially the first, but I'm sure we'll see many, many more from Cap, as he has a lot of rugby ahead of him, both domestically and internationally. There is more rugby in our future, rugby fans, with the Crossroads Cup about to make its debut coming up this week, September 23rd, September 30th, and October 7th, being played out at the Regional Athletic Complex in North Salt Lake. This is the domestic local competition for club players looking to make a break into the Utah Warriors pathway. This is part of the dedication for Utah being the epicenter of all things rugby in North America. No, it didn't end with the Eagles versus Stade Toulousain. Now we go right into the Crossroads Cup and get ready for MLR 2024. So go to warriorsrugby.com and get all the information about the Crossroads Cup.
And there are some ballers who have shown up in this. The Utah Warriors have discovered the likes of Jesse Hamilton, who last year was made the selects and then has a real splash in that finale win at Rugby New York, United New York, which was awesome. Takaji Young-Yan was a guy that went from Crossroads Cup to Warriors to USA Eagles. Like, you do not know what the future holds for you, but go to the Crossroads Cup, sign up, and you can go to the website there to learn more about it. And future Eagles have come out of that, which is pretty awesome.
More local players on the Utah Warriors roster than I think any other team in Major League Rugby, and a lot of them are found at events just like the Crossroads Cup. So come out and check out the Bull Moose, the Grey Wolves, the Trappers, and the Wranglers. Those are your four teams. The kit looks incredible, the logos look incredible, and the rugby is top tier. So Bull Moose, Grey Wolves, Trappers, Wranglers, all coming up in the Crossroads Cup, baby.
I feel like I'm kind of a Grey Wolf kind of guy. Which of those four kind of suits you?
Is that because their colors are the closest to one Brigham Young University?
Are they? I don't even remember. Just maybe it's just the wolf. Which of those four suits you the most? Just by name only.
Probably the Bull Moose, because I'm big and ugly.
You're only one
Facts
of those
are facts,
two
Jarom
things.
Jordan. I can't dispute them.
You're only one of those two things. I'm not going to say which one. Okay, the World Cupdate. The World Cup continues in France. Man, it's been fun to watch. There is a Utah Warrior in it. It is Cliven Lobser of Namibia. He has started several games. He had some good runs against the All Blacks in the loss there. Namibia also lost to Italy. This is a situation where Namibia being there is everything, right? They host France, rather. France is hosting Thursday, and then Uruguay next Wednesday. What an experience for Cliven in the World Cup, man. It's pretty cool, the stories that he's going to have from that.
It's great to see he and so many other players. I think there's 6 different players from MLR that are featuring for their nations in the World Cup, most of them for Namibia, but they make a lot of their playing time here in Major League Rugby. So we get to see them once, maybe twice a year. But for Cliven, week in and week out, he's really put in the work. So it's good to see him finally healthy and finding form for his home country. It's been fantastic to watch.
What or who has stuck out so far in the tournament to you?
I think I'm surprised that New Zealand lost to France in the opener, but not shocked that it happened. France is always a tough beat. I think Ireland quietly are the dark horse in the entire competition with their form. I think people are overlooking them. It's really France and South Africa's game right now, with Ireland and New Zealand the 3rd and 4th place favorites there. But I think in an event like this, with the spectacle that it is and the quality of rugby being played, you can cheer for anyone and just enjoy the moment that is the Rugby World Cup. This is the most parity that we've seen. And just, can I say, if you're not cheering for Fiji, get the hell out of here.
Fiji is so fun to watch. They're so fun to watch.
Absolutely robbed against Wales. It has to be said. Anybody that watched that can watch it. But Anytime that Australia loses, it's good for World Rugby. Anytime England loses, it's good for World Rugby. And when it's one of the Pacific nations to do it, even better. The Fiji Drua in the Super Rugby competition has raised the bar and the expectations for these players and what they're capable of. Fiji doing a fantastic job. Samoa right in it. Tonga playing big physical rugby. It's so exciting to see, and we're seeing the level of every team rise. I don't necessarily think that it's New Zealand struggling, or that Australia is struggling that terribly, even though they are, and it's beautiful to watch.
The Kiwis coming out there.
The level of rugby by everyone being played, specifically Fiji this year, has been so fun to watch. So let's go Fiji.
The spirit and just the excitement of that opening France-New Zealand game was incredible. Like, the crowd is trying to muster France to its first World Cup victory, meaning winning the whole tournament, not a game. They take out the All Blacks and a shot fired, right? Ireland is into – your comment on Ireland is really interesting, because Ireland, by some people, is perceived as the best team in the world, yet you feel like they're being overlooked a little bit. France has got that home juice. The Kiwis obviously are always super strong. South Africa looking great. It's going to be interesting to see who makes a run here. Fiji is super dangerous. Portugal and Chile, frankly, because the U.S. got knocked out by those guys. Anytime they lose, I'm okay with that, because I wish the U.S. was over there. Certainly, we loved having them in the game we mentioned. But it's been a great tournament, and because we're only halfway through group play right now, we got plenty of ball left, man.
There's so much rugby to enjoy and so many great games ahead on the schedule. Obviously, France and New Zealand most likely to come out of that pool. There's a lot of other teams that are up for grabs. And I mean, realistically, you could see England struggle to make it out of pool play in the way things go, with the games that are still played. Not likely, but it could happen. A man can hope and dream, right? So obviously I cheer for New Zealand. I cheer for Samoa. And then after that, it's anybody but England. That's my take on the Rugby World Cup from here going forward.
We did want to mention, our best wishes to Leroux Milan from Namibia, who dislocated his ankle. When both teams stop play and they turn and signal to the sideline, that's never a good thing. That's what happened when he dislocated his ankle against New Zealand. But the All Blacks signed a jersey and gave it to him. He plays for the New England Free Jacks. He's an MLR champ, and our best wishes in his recovery, because that was a little scary, but it sounds like he's going to be okay.
And he's in really good spirits, too. If you follow him on Instagram, you'll know that several different All Blacks have come to see him in the hospital and check on him bedside to make sure his spirits are up. It's what the game is all about. This is a community and a family that comes together when we need it most. And it'll be good to see him back on the pitch and back on his feet. So speedy recovery, Leroux.
Continue to watch the World Cup and enjoy, and watch our boy Cliven Lobster for Namibia.
And if you do it, you may as well be rocking the red and black and the 4 stripes that is the Utah Warriors kit. Get it now while it's there. Blowout prices right now on last year's kit. You want to get you some? Go to shop.warriorsrugby.com now. That's shop.warriorsrugby.com and get the best looking kit in all of Major League Rugby. Dare I say, the world.
Hey, we in our super biased opinion, absolutely. Okay, Major League Rugby news. We've had a big trade. Seattle has traded Samoan international fly half AJ Alatimo to Houston for USA Eagle prop Joe Taufete'e. What do you make of this trade? That's a big one.
I think that's both teams trying to improve their strengths where they are. Seattle has a lot of playmakers all over the field, and Alatimu has been good, but Houston needed a facilitator. They needed somebody that can get the ball into the hands of their playmakers like Pangelainen and others who are there. For Seattle, though, they needed somebody to shore up that scrum. They needed somebody that could be a difference maker for that forward pack. That forward pack is led by their big number 8 back there, Reichert Hadding, but it can't go anywhere if they're not solid on the front row. And Taufete'e is an incredible talent. So a win-win for both teams there, in my opinion.
Seattle also getting a big signing in the offseason. Super Rugby star Tony Pula from Western Force. Miami Sharks, 13th team in the league, starting next season. Announced they'll practice and play home games at the Inter Miami facilities in the Florida Blue Training Center, Auto Nation Field, right next to DRV Pink Stadium, where Inter Miami play. I guess everybody's jumping on that Messi train. Everybody trying to get a piece of Deion Sanders too. Also a report that the Welsh international front rowers Rob Evans and Kirby Myhills are signing with Miami. So we'll see what the Sharks produce next year.
You know, the Sharks, they did well in the expansion draft. I think they're setting the foundation for what is going to be a great future, and almost kind of using the Utah Warriors playbook there and how they're establishing their locality and their partnerships in the community. So exciting to see some smart decisions being made by the Miami Sharks.
Toronto Arrows have announced a new logo. What do you think about it?
I like the logo. Obviously, there was going to be a maple leaf in there for the Canadian B-side in Major League Rugby. They had to have it. But the nod to the arrow with the fighter jet in there, it all ties why they're in Toronto and why they're called the Arrows. Now you have that visual representation, a much smarter rebranding than some others we've seen in Major League Rugby.
And then the Arrows also welcoming back fly half Sam Malcolm, who's been a big-time point scorer. He is coming back next season. Old Glory DC announces it's moving to the Maryland Soccerplex in Germantown, Maryland next season. Utah played at Old Glory DC, so they won't be there, you'd think, until 2 years from now on the road. And then last but not least, the Rugby Network has signed a 2-year deal to broadcast the English Premiership starting Friday, October 13th with full match coverage of all 93 games. That's fantastic.
That's super exciting when we have top-tier rugby available here in the United States. So you're going to see names and faces that you will get familiar with. To have this first on the Rugby Network, but in our growing and expanding coverage of rugby in North America, this is a huge deal. Next, French Premiership and Super Rugby have to be on the cards for the exposure of the sport here in the United States.
That would be fantastic. Continue to make it easy to watch rugby, to learn rugby, to love rugby. It's awesome, man. I'm still coming down from the high of the USA Stade Toulousain game. I mean, that experience was so good. We've had the draft. We have some signings. We have some announcements, some logos. World Cup's going on. There's rugby fever, baby. I love it. Okay, that'll do it for us. Like and share this episode of Dub Nation. Follow the Utah Warriors on social media. Our thanks to Bailey Wilson, Mason Benson. For Banksy, I'm Jarom. Go Warriors.